Introduction to Metadata in Federated EGA. What do we mean by metadata? What kind of metadata is needed for a dataset submission to Federated European Genome-Phenome Archive? What are metadata standards and schemas? What is a data dictionary? In this video, we will give a brief introduction to this topic and try to clarify the definitions. Let's begin by defining the term metadata. Metadata is data that provides information about data. This information will be used to organize the data, define what to search for in a database, and understand the use of data for analysis and reuse. Metadata is usually classified into different categories such as descriptive, structural, administrative, and legal metadata. There are also science-specific metadata types, for example, for experiment, analysis, and dataset. Let's go through a couple of examples of the metadata types you're handling during a dataset submission to Federated EGA. Discovery metadata for the whole study include title, abstract, author, and keywords. Legal metadata provides information about the data access committee, policies, and the submission object. These regulate how sensitive data is accessed. Descriptions of experimental conditions, protocols, and equipment used are all stored in the experiment metadata object. When submitting human genetic data to Federated EGA, it's a good practice to describe their particulars in as much detail as possible. Metadata describes a particular genetic sample's who, what, how, when, and where. When the data is accompanied with accurate metadata and a persistent identifier, for example a DOI, it will enable other researchers to find your dataset and reuse it efficiently. What are metadata standards and schemas? The purpose of standardization is that information created by one project, organization, or research field can be used and understood by others. Metadata standardization usually requires the use of a particular vocabulary. Repositories often require the use of a particular standard or ontology. For example, in a Federated EGA submission, phenotype data can be described with the experimental factor ontology standard. For example, if you're submitting the DNA sequence of a patient, the genetic phenotypic information can be given with the sex of a patient and the name of the cancer, or it can be standardized by using the experimental factor ontology terms. Metadata schemas or models are the overall structure for the metadata. The schema describes how the metadata is set up and usually defines standards or common components of metadata, like dates, names, and places. The models can be complex, as in this FEGA metadata schema. But for FEGA metadata submission, it can be simplified into discovery, legal, and sample level metadata, which we went through in the beginning of this tutorial. What is a data dictionary? A data dictionary is a collection of names, definitions, and characteristics about data elements that are being used in a database, information system, or part of a research project. In short, it describes the meanings and purposes of data elements. Data dictionaries provide consistency and enforce the use of data standards. In other words, data dictionary practically implements a metadata model or schema. To summarize, when you submit data to Federated EGA, you will describe the following metadata: the purpose of the study, how samples are processed for the experiment, and general non-sensitive phenotypic information related to the patient who donated the sample. Additional information about the patient needs to be submitted as a separate dataset or phenotype data, as this information can be sensitive. In the next videos, we will focus on describing what is a phenotype and how a phenotype metadata model can be used to collect standardized information across a study to facilitate data analysis and reuse. If you need help or have questions about metadata submission or Federated EGA, please contact CSC Service Desk at cscf.fi and use Federated EGA as the email subject. Thank you.